Alrighty, well, today's class is going to be super simple because, again, there's really not a lot to it. Really, we're just going to help demystify a few things, help you guys understand how and who to connect to, how to connect to them, so on and so forth, and really leverage influencers to help build your brand. The biggest misconception, and so let's start off with some fairy tales, if you will. A lot of people think influencers have to be bought. Untrue. Influencers come in a variety of shapes and sizes, demographics, you name it. So really what I want you to understand is how really to leverage these guys, because that's the most important aspect of anything, any type of social media campaign. If you want to spend your entire days just sitting there running ads and buying leads, it's exhaustive, it's expensive, and to be honest, it's with mixed results. Influencers can help you do that in a fraction of the time. And again, the cost can really just be your effort, which again might be expensive. So, not trying to dismiss that, but big picture wise, what we really want to encourage businesses to understand is you have the ability to leverage these influencers. And really, I want to teach you today how to go about that. So big picture wise, the foundation of any successful influencer campaign starts with, again, your initial platform, which is either going to be Facebook, Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform you want. Again, there are influencers per platform, per category, per demographic. I mean, you can really, really, really drill this down. So we're going to talk a lot about Facebook today, just because that's the easiest one. Again, understand if you want to leverage influencers on Instagram, totally cool. Snapchat, YouTube, there's a variety of ways, but it all follows the same, let's call, storyboard behind it. So let's go into Facebook here. And what I always encourage is that you really, and this goes for anything, doesn't matter if we're doing influencer campaigns, doesn't matter if we're doing just any social media ads, the concept of putting your best foot forward applies, which just means that when you're reaching out to somebody, again, you have one shot at making a great first impression with them. And again, that will make or break that relationship moving forward. And so with that, again, influencers, they want to be tied to organizations or businesses that are reputable. They want to be tied to people who take pride in their appearance, that, really have a vested interest, because as much as they want to help you, you need to help them. So it's a really, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Now, influencers as a whole, let's start by defining that. So what is an influencer to begin with? Well, an influencer doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It can be a company. It can be really anything. I mean, Cheryl's dog Bella could be an influencer, depending on how many people follow. Cheryl to create a Facebook page for her, let me tell you, that could go gangbusters. You never know. But at the end of the day, whether it's a company, a person, most people tend to try to associate with, let's just say, industry influencers, stuff like that, might not always be the best option for you. What you want is to create a little diversity in your life. So what I encourage clients to do is this. I look at the big picture and say, okay, if I'm going to pick on Cheryl a lot today. Sorry, Cheryl, you're my guinea pig for a lot of Q&A stuff. But let's use chiropractic for an example. Cheryl has an amazing weight loss program. We're on it ourselves. And so, for us, like in this circumstance right here, I could be considered an influencer as I'm promoting her brand to an outside organization with like interests. Now, let's really kind of dial that back a bit and help understand where can you, well, we've defined what an influencer is, but where do you target them? How do you get a hold of them? You want to find influencers that aren't necessarily just industry related. Like I wouldn't go after, again, other chiropractors. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, that's her industry, right? We would want to find other connected industries that have a loose affiliation that we can draw their client base into ours. So again, we'll use Cheryl. We'll pick on Trinity here. Trinity has an amazing following, lots of dedicated, very loyal clients. So again, it wouldn't make much sense for us to sit there and just try to recruit people who already like chiropractic or, are believers in that. What we want to try to do is open it up to a new audience. And so this is where we can look to nonprofits. We can look to really anything. She does a lot in the community. If you didn't know, she picks a new charity pretty much quarterly actually not pretty much, she does pick a new charity quarterly that they give back to. And so again, that's a phenomenal influencer campaign, because what she's doing is she's drawing in followers for those organizations into her. Now, could we be more direct about that with social media posts? Sure, there's a way to do that, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But again, it's about connecting us with outside influences that can really help build our business. So again, in the chiropractic space, maybe some type of partnership with a naturopath. Again, you want to be careful because you don't want exact services to overlap. So you want to try to create, a natural connection with somebody. A great one for again, for Trinity would be, attorneys. They get clients that get in car accidents all the time. Those attorneys refer over to them. That's a great synergy right there. So finding influencers really isn't difficult. You just really have to think outside of the box. Nonprofits, again, back to that, is a really easy go-to because, again, that's pretty much synonymous with anything. For our company, we give back to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I know, and I can tell this specifically, we don't put much effort into promoting that type of stuff for our business, although we should. I'm a hypocrite for that. I should do a much better job at that. But I can tell you that within the state of Arizona and actually nationally, we have had companies come to us and say, hey, we just really like that you are associated with them and that you donate to them. We do give a portion of our proceeds to that organization. And so again, that's a great opportunity for us, and we've landed clients from it. So that goes to show you this influencer model works. Again, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, we do the the Humane Society, SCORE, and Rotary. Those are big ones that we believe in here. And again, we rotate them up too. We pick local organizations too, much like Cheryl does. So sadly, I stole that idea from you, Cheryl. Anyway, but again, nonprofits are a very easy connection point. So how do you leverage that? So we'll talk specifically in the nonprofit arena. With any nonprofit, obviously, you have that outspoken, really dynamic community person, right? And so there's always one. It's never, no nonprofit succeeds without one. So again, you're always going to have either it's the CEO, whether it's large or small, you need to find and you need to really curate a relationship with those people. You really need to make sure that they understand that you're helping them, you're really trying to give back, so on and so forth. Again, not to say we don't have an underlying agenda. Again, we're trying to promote our brand as well, but really out of the goodness of your heart, you really are trying to give back, hopefully. So when we look at that, leveraging those people can be a huge, huge, huge influence. Again, all of the followers that trust and that they've connected with, this is our ability to connect with them. So again, maybe building, again, I'm just going to use our page here, a simple social media post that's co-branded. Again, influencers, they're not going to create this stuff for you. They're not going to create the connection. They're not going to voluntarily, most of the time, they're not going to voluntarily promote your business. So you need to help them with that. But you can't just go to them and say, hey, by the way, I'm Cheryl with Trinity Chiropractic. We're going to donate to you. So here's some social media posts that I'd like you to post up. That's absolutely not how that's going to get you booted out the door quicker than you got in. What you need to do is, again, curate that relationship. Really, get to know their interests. It's a relationship at the end of the day. The more they get to know you and trust you, again, this is where they're going to start buying in. And then when you do say, hey, you know what? I did a branded social media post. I posted it on our page. You can send it to them, let them see that, and then say, hey, if you wouldn't mind, can you either share this or, better yet, I'm going to create one for you. If you ever want to post this for your business, let me, feel free. Again, it's almost that, hey, it's a passive approach, if you will, but it works every single time. So again, it's non-intrusive. It's not like you're product pushing or you're pushing on somebody. But again, you have an existing relationship with those companies, and it works. It's something that's going to take time. Nothing happens overnight. But I'll tell you, once you establish that relationship, it's like the gift that keeps giving. You keep, again, nurturing that. You keep sending them stuff. Before you know it, those nonprofits are synonymous with your brand. And again, you've really largely pulled in all of their followers to help build your brand, which is a great thing. You have a great referral base. There's so many benefits from doing that. Now, on a flip side to that, we do have individuals. So we talked about nonprofits there. There's another side of that, which you have individuals as influencers. These are people, again, could be a mom blog, it could be a pet blogger, a dog blog, I don't really care who it is. We define an influencer by somebody who has and again, there's not a set number. And typically we look at people with over 1,000 followers. That's kind of a general rule of thumb. But again, there's really no set number to what we define as a quote unquote influencer. So when we look at this, people as individuals who are influencers, these are people who have large followings that ultimately, again, same concept as the nonprofit, we want to try to pull their audience into us. Now, we got to be, this is almost purpose-built. What you need to make sure that you're not like just broad-based going after and trying to find just anybody and everybody. The biggest mistake I see with businesses is that, let's say they follow an influencer, right? So let's say you guys as business owners follow an influencer, and an influencer, maybe it's, you know, some motivational coach, maybe, you know, could be a variety of different things. And what you do is you try to strike up a relationship with that individual. Now, let's use Cheryl as an example, a local chiropractor, right? So we have let's say a motivational coach that has a national reach. You know, is there much value behind that? Well, maybe. I mean, obviously, we would think that they would have a pull from our local area. Certainly, there should be other people from our local. But a lot of that influence is really drawn from outside of our sphere of influence. And so we want to be, we really need to be purpose-built behind this. We really need to make sure that who we're going to invest our time into, because time is limited. That's the limiting factor behind influencer marketing. The time that we invest into this needs to be well spent and focused. So that's why I always say, you know, sure, it sounds great to get that YouTube influencer that has 1 million followers, or like, you know, a Kardashian. Sure, it sounds great, but are you even able to service that audience? I mean, is that audience really going to benefit you at the end of the day? I mean, maybe is the answer. I don't, you know, each business is just, you know, is their own thing. So I can't answer that definitively, but for most instances, you know, again, if Kim Kardashian blew up my business, well, that'd be fantastic. I'd love that because I can service clients nationwide. But again, a local chiropractor or a local retail store, you know, that maybe doesn't have an e-commerce setting, I mean, that would be limiting, let's just say. Instead, what I encourage you guys to focus on is that local sphere of influence. So again, you can ask your clients, hey, you know, do you guys follow any local bloggers, you know, stuff like that. That's a great source to find influencers if you're not connected already to some locally. So you can ask your clients and say, hey, you know, do you guys follow anybody? A lot of the times you'll find, and again, not to pick on women or anything, but you have a lot of mom blogs out there, which again, they have incredible engagement. So those are fantastic sources. So if you know any moms or expecting mothers, a lot of the times they're connecting with those audiences already. It would be great. That's a great connection point too, with that influencer to say, hey, you know, one of my clients who's, and I'm just saying it, we're just using the expecting moms scenario, but hey, you know, one of my clients, she's an expecting mother, and she said that your blog was pretty awesome, so I wanted to check you out and see if we can collaborate together. You know, if you ever hear that word collaborate, that's kind of the common lingo, if you will, for influencers. And again, that's a great opportunity for you to connect and create that initial, you know, instead of it being an awkward, hey, I'm Trinity Chiropractic, I don't know you from anybody else, but I want to collaborate with you. That can get a bit awkward, but instead you have that connection point, which makes that introduction a lot easier. It's the concept of network marketing, you know, which again, Cheryl's fantastic at, and most of us, you know, have been in that business for a while. So once you find that local source, again, for whatever it is, those are phenomenal touch points. You're going to build a relationship just like you would with a nonprofit. You're going to go out there. You want to share like interests. You really want to help them understand how you're going to help their brand as well. And then obviously they're going to want to in turn help you. Some influencers are going to request something in exchange for that. It could be monetary, it could be whatever it is. So again, you want to be open to that conversation and just realize, you know, when we're looking at influencers, we're looking at how many followers they have, what is their geography, what is their zone of influence or geography of influence. So we really want to take those aspects into consideration. So if somebody does come to you and say, you know, hey, Cheryl, I'm going to charge you, you know, hey, if you want me to do a featured post for you here, happy to do that. I really like what I saw on your website. It's going to be $100. You know, you can evaluate that and say, well, you know what? You got 35,000 followers, and you know that's reasonable. You know, that's a good rate. I can't give you any numbers in terms of what's going to be a good rate, what's not going to be a good rate, because again, that's going to vary. You know, some of them are worth their weight in gold. Again, if it was somebody that, I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, of course. But, you know, if there was something that really is a dynamic influencer in your industry, somebody that would instantly turn your business around, well, it might make sense. But if not, well, then you need to make sure that that gets worked out in the details. Again, everything is up for negotiation. But back to the content creation, no influencer, or I should say very, 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 very few influencers will actually create content for you. A lot of what they're looking for, in addition to, let's just say if it's a paid, placement, they're going to need you to create that content. So that's where applications like Canva come into play. If you've never worked on that, I highly encourage you to get familiar with that. Again, just make sure that you put your best foot forward, you create unique content. And certainly if we're going to pay to play, we always want to make sure that that content is not shared. We don't want them to necessarily share a post from our website, although or on our Facebook page, although there is some value behind that. What we'd really like to do is make sure there's direct links. They have their own curated content. So again, it appeals to their target audience. If we were going after, as a company, for me, if I was going after, let's just say, a 18 to 25-year-old small business owner that's just getting started, the way that I design that ad is going to be much different than, let's just say, a service-based business or contractor that's been around for 45 years. So again, that's going to look a lot different. Last but not least, again, let's talk about the platforms here, because again, there's tons of different ways to go about this. Facebook is the most broad audience. That's where you're going to find influencers that have a really diverse following most of the time. Again, Facebook being the largest social media platform out there, followed in short by YouTube. YouTube, again, second largest search engine out there. I think the highest grossing YouTube was like 26 million last year. Highest grossing influencer out there. I mean, it's incredible how many followers these people get. But each platform dictates what type of content you're going to curate and how you're going to go about approaching them. So again, messaging is most common. A lot of influencers, if they're large enough, they'll actually tell you how to collaborate with them. They'll actually give you the instructions. And I will tell you, respect that. If you don't and you try to go outside of the, some people I've seen where they'll try to direct message them, and here very clearly in their bio or about section, they say, for collaboration, please email this and such person or this and such email. And then you try to direct message them. Again, that's not putting our best foot forward. That's in fact creating basically a bad first impression, in my opinion. So respect their process. A lot of bloggers, again, where you connect with them possibly on social media, let's just say it's a mom blogger, they'll have a blog website. Go to the website, find their contact information there, or look for that collaboration point where it tells you how they want to interact. YouTube, like I said, video-based, make sure that your content is curated to them, or look, again, it's something that will easily connect with them. If you just started a Facebook page or YouTube page, doesn't matter, and then all of a sudden you're reaching out, to these influencers, they can't look through your history. They don't see what type of posts you're doing. Again, their brand, this is their brand, this is their business, this is how they make income. And so again, if you are going to potentially jeopardize that, they want to see history. They want to see that you're not popping off doing something stupid, and ultimately it's going to negatively impact their brand, because anything nowadays, especially with influencers, it's a hot button item right now. And so, they're under fire for a lot of things. So again, just be careful with that, just do your research. The other thing, when we're going to, so back to the different platforms. So Facebook, obviously, there's video, there's, static ads, there's any number of ways we can collaborate with them. YouTube videos, fantastic option. Again, getting them to mention you and something like that can make huge strides for your business. Just make sure they have something to feed back to. So that's where, make sure your page is just tuned up to the inch of its life. Make sure every field is filled out. Make sure it's updated regularly. So again, these are all things that influencers take into consideration. Snapchat, they want to see what your targeted influence is or your audience. And most importantly, if you get a feature, you need to make sure to thank them for that. So again, they want to see you reciprocate. So, again, if let's just say somebody, Trinity, Cheryl got an influencer to post about her, whether she got any clients or not, after that feature or after that, that influencer has obviously tagged their business or featured them in some way, shape, or form, you're going to want to thank them, because again, that's drawing your clients now over to them. So there's that mutually beneficial relationship. So again, there's a variety of ways to do this. This is just the easiest way. I always tell clients, listen, make sure you really curate that pitch. That pitch is going to be the most important thing you can do. Make sure you do your research on their brand and what they do and what they're all about. If there's a nonprofit that's important to them, or you know, something family-wise that's really important to them, you gotta find that connection point, because that's what's going to get you in the door. Otherwise, there's companies like us that, you know, again, we're going to pay to play with them, so that's a whole different concept. But you remember, they probably have, if they're, you know, any sizable influencer, they've got hundreds of people a day potentially reaching out to them. So how do you stand out in front of the crowd? Well, that's how you build and nurture that relationship. A couple other little tidbits here. I always tell clients, don't get discouraged. This is, like I said, this is something that takes time. It takes a lot of effort in doing this. This isn't we reach out one time and all of a sudden our wishes come true. It's not how this is going to work. This is something that's going to require dedication. You're going to reach out 100 times and you're going to fall flat on your face 99 of them. You know, so you need to be prepared for that. Don't get discouraged. Just because an influencer doesn't feature you now doesn't mean they don't feature you later. So just, again, be reasonable with this. Just remember, it's all about timing. Sometimes you're going to hit it right on the mark and sometimes you're not. I always tell clients, and for us even, so I always focus on 10 a week. So if I'm going to do an influencer campaign, I'm going to focus on 10 core influencers, and I'm going to start right then and there by liking their page, following. I'm going to do my research on those 10. And again, that's if I have time, of course. If you don't have time for 10, do 5, or, you know, whatever's reasonable for you. And again, we want to put a little bit of effort. I keep an Excel file for those so I can keep track of them. I put links to their pages so that way I can revisit them. And that's going to be the awesome way for you to organize yourself, because again, you're not going to hit them up every single day. You're not going to, you know, you're not going to be at these guys constantly. It's, you follow their page, maybe you send them an email or you comment on something, they start to see your name into things. And then again, this is a relationship you build. Reasonable time frames, depending on how much you interact with that individual, might be 30 days before you really even approach them for a potential feature. So again, think that one through. So again, make sure you have something to organize yourself. I use an Excel spreadsheet. You can use whatever you want. Again, maybe you even use a CRM for it. That's a great tool for that. But just make sure you have the ability to keep track. You have the ability to keep track of your interactions. Stay organized in this, because it's very, very easy to forget, and you don't want to waste your time. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm gonna pick somebody to target, I want to see that through. Like I said, from there, recycle, because it's all about timing. If you hit somebody up today and it's just not the right time for them, don't get pissed off at them. Don't, you know, throw them bash them or something like that because they won't feature you right now. Save it for a later date. You've taken all this time and effort to learn about their brand. Do yourself a favor. You know, recycle that influencer later on down the road. And I will tell you, influencers, they love to see other influencers that have featured you. So once you get that first one or second one or third one, believe me when I say it becomes much easier for you to get featured on these things. So it's all about timing. It's all about how much effort and energy you're going to put into it. And again, it's about a relationship. I stress that because relationships are everything. Even if you have to pay to play, it can influence the price you pay down the road. There's so many things that, you know, work with this. So